I was in a band in Copenhagen with a very good friend of mine, Jakob Anderskov, wizard of a Rhodes player. On drums, we had another great friend of mine, Stefan Pasborg. Stefan's been on a few albums with me. We played a few gigs around Copenhagen, and then we recorded. The album is called Atmos. It's on the FMR imprint, which is basically Trevor Taylor's label. Great guy. When I was in Midway, we used to rehearse when the Murphy's Garage was unavailable in the old schoolhouse at the end of Scotsman's Road. One Sunday morning when we were there, this chap arrived in, and the guy said, Mark, could you do this, this and this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then he went to Shamey and said, Shamey, you need to change your runners. And Tom, could you wear a leather jacket? And Kevin, you're wearing your guitar too high, you need to lower it. And, Brian Ormond, his uncle was one of the most popular men in Cork City. I mean, both my parents were great friends of his uncle. We were playing gigs, and sometimes I'd go to Kevin and kind of chat about the set list. And I remember one occasion, I went to Kevin, and Brian was outside the door, and he said, sorry, Mark, but Kevin's meditating. And, oh, okay. So come back later. So, okay, new paradigm, new machinations, new ways. That's fine by me. And like Brian would say on stage, Mark, look over the crowd, do this, stand here, stand there, blah, blah, blah. And, quartered oranges before the gig, and if necessary, karate chop massages and stuff like that. Brian had acuity. He had a vision. We were his first band. We were his lab. And, he was refining his traits and nuances, and he was excellent. When the band broke up and Kevin joined Interference Mark II, which I subsequently did, and had an ephemeral period with Interference. Again, as I said, basically I was the guitarist on the Bruce sessions. These were the sessions that the Interference made, the recordings that the Interference made in Bruce College, top of Patrick's Hill, before they moved to Dublin. I was the guitarist on those sessions. When they moved to Dublin, Brian Ormond got involved. He wasn't there when I was there, but when they moved to Dublin, he did. Then I was told, "Do you hear about Brian Ormond?" And I'm like, no, what? He's the road manager for Radiohead. Now, that's a kind of a John Frusciante moment for me. We'll talk about that later. But initially it was like, yeah. But then I was kind of, he was really, really professional. He was really, really good. And I can kind of understand why they would have him as their road manager. Another tangible link to Radiohead. I played in a band with Darren Beckett and Jeremy Brown. And nice kind of thing. And then afterwards, one of my students said, you played with Jeremy Brown, right? I was like, yeah. He's the bass player on Jonny Greenwoods' solo album. Okay. And he also was in his band. I was, okay. And it was concurrently to when I was playing with him. He didn't say anything. So there's a tangible link for you. The other thing, Kid A by Radiohead is a fantastic album. That's the one by Radiohead that interests me. And it has stood the test of time. It's a great album. And, when you talk about Rhodes, I'm kind of Miles, post Miles, kind of chicken Keith. I like the quartals. I like the upper structure triads. I like the subtle melodies, the common tones, all this kind of stuff, like that. But I do like the way Radiohead used the Rhodes. And in my solo stuff, I have integrated some of that into it. Again, it's still kind of with the quartals and stuff like that. But some of the Do you know, that kind of feeling of Radiohead? You know, it's the mores, that's there. And it's still a fantastic album. Also, when I was doing the minimal techno stuff, you know, again, some of those elements were in there. I didn't like kind of copy them on purpose. It just, you know, the ambience of it was there. Kid A has stood the test of time, but I would also like to say that Atmos is a fine album, with two brilliant Danish musicians, Stefan and Jakob, great friends of mine too. And Copenhagen is a hell of a town, great place. And, you know, FMR, Atmos, check it out. Thank you for listening.